Instead, it exemplifies our collective commitment to standing with the families. As such, we hope that the insight shared here today can help foster a new impetus to resolve these enduring issues in a rapid and just manner. To conclude, I take this opportunity to reaffirm our guiding solidarity with the families of victims, those who have demonstrated incredible persistence and bravery in the seemingly interminable quest to realize long-awaited reunions with their loved ones. Let's come together to reinvigorate our global efforts to write an end to this difficult story. Thank you.
Those were remarks by Ambassador Cha Ji-hoon. Next, remarks by Ambassador Stavros Lambrinidis, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, head of the delegation of the European Union to the UN.
Not only to lose a loved one, but to know that they are held against their will, out of sight but never out of mind. For the past 50 years, this has been the fate of regular citizens in Japan, whose family members were abducted by agents of the DPRK or North Korea. It may sound like the stuff of Cold War fiction, but it is only too true. And the effects of crimes committed in the 1970s continue to shape lives today. In recent years, the DPRK has gone to increasing lengths to stop any flow of information out of the country. But we know from the testimony of escapees that the human rights situation there is hard to imagine, continuing to shock the world's conscience. This is why the European Union continues to present resolutions on the DPRK to the United Nations General Assembly and Human Rights Council, so that the violations and abuses of human rights are not forgotten. These resolutions keep calling on the DPRK to immediately return all abductees, and they are supported by the whole international community. This is why the European Union remains committed to working with Japan and other partners to keep the issue at the forefront of international attention. The DPRK has a duty to listen to the victims and their families. It should address all allegations of enforced disappearances, clarify the fate and whereabouts of all disappeared persons, provide information to the families, and cooperate in returning the remains of those no longer with us. To this end, and in pursuit of such a dialogue, the European Union will continue to work with the government of Japan, with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and with the UN Special Rapporteur. Thank you.
Since the return of only some of the Japanese abductees kidnapped by North Korea returned home 24 years ago, no concrete progress has occurred. The fact that we have to convene this international symposium again following last year plunges myself into deep remorse also as the chair of the parliamentary committee. I have been informed that Prime Minister Takaichi, who took office last October, asked President Trump for his cooperation on the abduction issue at the Japan-US summit meeting on the 19th of March, and that she received the full support. Former Senator Marco Rubio, who became the Secretary of State in the second Trump administration, kindly took the lead when he was a senator when both houses of the Congress passed a resolution on a U.S. national, Mr. David Snedden, who is strongly suspected to have been abducted. Mr. Rubio had clear recognition that these abductions were not mere kidnapping, but a state-sponsored terrorism, and it is of particular significance that he has become the Secretary of State. The Japan-US summit meeting this March and the meeting last year of President Trump and the families are extremely meaningful. That is because Mr. Trump has an acute awareness about the abduction issue. We, the Congressional Committee, is planning to visit Washington, D.C. in September this year as part of our annual endeavors. We will meet many members of the government and the Congress and appeal for the cooperation for the resolution of the abduction issue of both Japan and the U.S. Furthermore, we wish to once again request a meeting of the families of the U.S. citizen Mr. David Snedden and President Trump and Secretary Rubio. Why? Because despite the resolution adopted by both houses of the Congress, most of the Americans do not know of the high possibility of their own people being abducted by North Korea. If the President does meet the families of Mr. Snedden in the White House, it will be reported widely. Then it would serve as a huge pressure on Kim Jong-un, no doubt. Later today, the big brother of Mr. Snedden, Mr. James Snedden, will send his message. The perpetrator of the abductions is an abnormal dictatorial regime, North Korea, and that North Korea completely ignores a series of warnings by the international community, is absorbed in missile launches and nuclear development, is in full complicity with Russia, and in return for technology transfer, North Korea is dispatching a large number of troops, soldiers, only to be attacked and shot as targets. 2 years ago, President Putin visited North Korea and even a strategic partnership was concluded. North Korea is expected to further push ahead with its nuclear program. As for its relationship with China, in honesty, China is the enemy of a millennium, but with utmost reluctance as the gain was larger than the grudge. Following Foreign Minister Wan's visit to North Korea in April, President Xi Jinping went to North Korea on the 8th of June for the first time in 7 years, and the summit meeting was held. The reality of North Korea is neglect of human rights. The reality of worsening economic and food situations are also ignored. Illegal means are leveraged to collect financing, it scrambles to deploy missiles and nuclear weapons, and it is frantically working in this way with a desperate wish to squarely face the superpower the US on a par. That is the reality. However, this kind of abnormal actions are unlikely to continue forever, nor should we allow it to continue. Needless to say, in order to resolve the abduction of the Japanese citizens, as Prime Minister Takai just mentioned, she is determined to act proactively to realize the Japan-North Korea summit and to resolve the issue by her administration. The Committee of Congressional Members, we will spare no effort. What General Secretary Kim Jong-un is contemplating is to relegate the abduction issue to the past and make it forgotten. However, that should never be allowed. In Japan, we continue to spread the determination that the abduction will never be forgotten and to raise the public awareness that only the resolution of the abduction issue will lead North Korea to a brighter future. May I conclude my remarks as the chairman of the Congressional Committee for the Early Rescue of the Abductees with my prayer that we will do our utmost during the Takaichi administration by a firm international cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Furuya. We would now like to move on to the appeal by families of victims. First, we will hear from Mr. Yokota Takuya, young brother of Ms. Yokota Megumi and representative of the Association of Families of Victims Kidnapped by North Korea. Ms. Yokota Megumi was abducted by North Korea in 1977 when she was 13 years old in Niigata City of Japan. Mr. Yokota, please take the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and good morning. I am Yokota Takuya, representative of the Association in the UN on the abduction issue. I also wish to thank the online participants for showing your solidarity with the families of victims and sharing with us the resolve to achieve the immediate and collective return of all abductees and to bring a resolution to this grave human rights issue. Of the 17 abductees recognized officially by the Japanese government, 5 were able to return in 2002 and their families in 2004. However, not a single abductee has made it back since then. North Korea, even today, is engaged in hostage diplomacy, abducting innocent citizens of other countries, depriving them of their freedom and their bond with their families. On the other hand, they are strengthening their nuclear threat, repeating ballistic missile launches, and undermining regional security. 25 million North Korean citizens are in similar situations. They have been taken away their right to flee and are confined in a prison-like country. It must be understood that the military-first policy of North Korea and the human rights issue are two sides of the same coin, causing serious problems. The only thing that we, the families of victims of abduction, are asking for is the return of our loved ones who have been abducted. Chairman Kim Jong-un is frequently seen with Kim Joo-ae, who is assumed to be his daughter and appears to care deeply for her, while offering limitless love to his own child, well understanding the importance of the bond between family members. Yokota Megumi, abducted when she was 13, has been kept separated with her family for 48 years. Megumi has suffered, and so has her mother Sakie, from the deep pain waiting in Japan, yearning for a reunion with her daughter. Why can't he understand this agony? I lodge a strong objection and a strong demand. Please return all abductees without delay. My mother Sakie turned 90 last February. She is well today, but may not be so tomorrow, and is longing for reunion with Megumi. At the minimum, we demand the immediate and collective return of all abductees while the association members of the parents' generation are still active. This is non-negotiable. If our demand remains unfulfilled, we will urge the Japanese government to impose stronger sanctions against North Korea. Should that happen, the North Korean regime shall face a much more difficult socio-economic environment than they have ever had, and leave behind a harsh, burdensome legacy for future generations. If the abduction issue, which is a human rights and humanitarian problem, is solved at this instance, both countries can draw a bright future for themselves. As long as our one and only objective is realized, our association will not object to the lifting of unilateral sanctions by Japanese government against North Korea or commencement of negotiation towards normalization of ties between Japan and North Korea. However, not a single abductee may be left behind. We hope that Chairman Kim Jong-un makes a wise and courageous decision, and as a leader of your nation and as a loving father, please make an audacious decision for your daughter can be proud of. We will continue our fight until all abductees return through our voice as weapon. This is a battle we cannot afford to lose. Even if the leadership of North Korea is handed over to the next generation, we will continue our pursuit. Now is the time to release all abductees. I also call upon the Japanese government to promptly realize the Japan DPRK summit meeting and push forward with resolute diplomacy for the immediate return of all abductees. I also ask the international community to continue to stand with us and fight against North Korea's unjustified infringement of human rights as universal values of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Yokota. Next, we will hear from the eldest son of the abductee, Ms. Yaguchi Yaiko, and the Secretary General of the Association of Families of Victims Kidnapped by North Korea, Mr. Izuka Koichiro. Ms. Taguchi Yaiko was abducted by North Korea in 1978 when she was 22 years old. Mr. Izuka. Good evening, good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. May I express my gratitude to you all for maintaining your interest on the abduction issue and for your long and kind support. I am the Secretary General of the Association of Families, Izuka Koichiro. My mother, Taguchi Yaiko, went missing 48 years ago on June 29, 1978, leaving behind myself at age 1 and my 2-year-old sister. Her whereabouts remain unknown for as long as 24 years since then. At the Japan-North Korea summit meeting in September 2002, North Korea admitted the adoption of her. However, at the same time, it explained that she was killed in a traffic accident in North Korea in 1986. Later on, the investigation by Japan exposed numerous inconsistencies in the explanations and documents presented by North Korea, and that no proof of her death existed. It is not only Yaeko-san. Out of the 17 abductees identified by the government of Japan, 12 victims have not returned even now. About these 12 victims yet to return, North Korea has explained that 8 have died and 4 have never entered North Korea. But all explanation included numerous unnatural and contradictory elements, and there was no proof of their death.